This is Rob Tebbutt for ID Boxing. Delighted as always to be joined by Andy Lee. We're up in Morecambe today. Andy, been a while since I've seen you. How you doing?
Good, Rob. Good. Training the boys as usual and getting by, yeah.
Good. It seems like whenever I speak to you, you're in a different part of the world, or you're training in different places. You're in Ireland, you've been in America, but you're here in Morecambe. You like it round here? So it's the first time I've actually been up to Morecambe. Seems like a nice little quaint area here.
It's a unique place. Yeah. Um, as I said to Joe one time, we were here in the depths of winter and it was like constant rain and dark when you wake up and dark when, you come home. I said, Joe, you've trained and lived all over the world. I've trained and lived all over the world. How the hell did we end up in Morecambe? But here we are. It's the home of the Gypsy King and we've had great results from here. We've got a good setup and hopefully that continues.
Yeah, I've got a good setup, an interesting setup. We've spoken over the last few years about kind of the development of yourself as a trainer, and it started off very much with Paddy Donovan, who we'll come on and talk to, and then it's Jason Quigley, then Tyson Fury, Joyce-Parker, a bit of Isaac Lowe sprinkled in here and there. But you're developing, you're kind of a few years deep into this training game now. How do you feel like it's going?
You're always learning. And yeah, it's not stuff that like I don't know what to say, how to like. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. And when I'm not doing it, I don't know how much I miss it until I'm doing it again. But quite select with who I train and how many boxers I take on because I have a young family and I live in Ireland. And ideally, that's where I'll set up in the future. But yeah, it is. It's something I really, really enjoy and I'm passionate about. I don't have many passions in this life left. When you retire after a long career, it's very hard to get up for anything. It's very hard to get excited about anything. But I do get excited about training and coaching guys and improving them.
How does it differ? You mentioned there about not like fighting and retiring from fighting. How does it differ? How is it the same as kind of the thrill you used to get from fighting?
When you're fighting, you're in control. When you're the fighter, you're in control. And everything's on you. All the responsibility lies with you, and you only have yourself to look at the end of the day when it's over, whether the result goes your way or not. As a coach, you put in as much time, if not more time, because you're constantly thinking about it, and preparing the fighters and organising spar and training and the program. And then but once you get to the fight, you have to let go. You're not in control anymore. You have a certain amount of control because you can still instruct the fighter and have some impact on the outcome, but it's all in you have to trust them. You have to trust the work that you've done and just let it go. Like that's the biggest thing for me. The difference as a coach and a fighter, because I used to love that responsibility as a fighter, having that, knowing what I've done and trusting myself and believing in myself. But as a coach, you realise when they're up there, and you know what's at stake as when you fight yourself, when high stakes, when you're in that ring. The difference between one head movement or one feint can win or lose a fight. So, but that's how it differs. But when you win, it feels just as good.
I think in sort of modern era in the last few years especially, you get trainers talk about like what their philosophy is. You have people who are kind of cornered as an offensive coach, as a defensive coach. You've worked with Emmanuel Stewart, you worked with Adam Booth. It's only natural for you to kind of take things from both of those great trainers. Would you say that you have a specific kind of philosophy, how you train fighters, or is it very much dependent on who you're working with?
It's still very early in my career to say there's any. It's not even a career, but in my coaching career to say I have philosophy. It could depend on the fighter. You have to work with what's in front of you and know what they're capable of. But yeah, between Emmanuel and Adam Sugar Hill, a lot of my fights, even when I was with Emmanuel, Joey Gamache, I've been lucky to work with some of the best, coaches, and even as an amateur with Zora Antia, Billy Walsh, and my Repton Boxing Club, St. Francis Boxing Club. So without without ever planning. I got to be involved or trained by some of the best coaches, even Nicholas Cruz, the great Cuban coach. And so you pick it up from everyone, and then you also got to put your own identity onto it as well. And yeah, that's being a fighter yourself is invaluable to me, because you know what they're going through. You know what, you can almost feel what they're feeling in the ring, and when they have bad days or when they having difficult rounds. I always draw on my own experiences and relate it to the boxers, and they can, I think they can relate to that.
Your relationship with Joyce-Parker, I mean, you've been working with Joe for about 18 months now, is it around there or thereabouts, for about 18 months. How do you feel that your relationship has changed or has developed throughout the period of time that you've been working together with Joe?
With every camp, and not even in camp, out of camp, when we talk a lot, and I watch him train. He'll send me videos if he's in New Zealand. Yeah, just the understanding, and the chemistry. It's just it just grows with every passing camp and every passing day, really. And I'm excited to see, for Joseph to show what we've been working on and to see what we can achieve, because I think Joseph has the potential to become he's not just a big, if you've got big, heavy, big, tall heavyweights, they can only fight in a certain way. You have to fight his strengths. You have to train the fighters to their strengths. But Joseph has such ability, like coordination and hand speed, power now, that he could be like a middleweight in a heavyweight's body, with that type of skill. And he's got massive potential that we're only really tapping into.
How much of it with Joe is, you've mentioned there, his skill set, fast hands, well-schooled amateur. How much of it with him is the mental side and the mental approach to boxing that you're trying to work on?
Well, my job, and with Tyson and with Joe and with any of my fighters, it's whatever we do in the gym is only half of it. It's outside of the gym. It's the car drive. It's the meals. It's all the talking, and it's consistently programmed. And that's what Emmanuel was great at, programming these fighters and talking and reflecting on what we've done, what we need to do. And that's a big part of my job. It's a big part of a coach's, I think any coach's job, but I know that's how what I found, that's the way I work, that we work hard in the gym. And I also listen to the fighters, because Joe, as you said, very experienced. He's a world champion. He's achieved as much as I ever achieved in the ring. He has he has his own faults. And the same with Tyson. We're saying with Tyson, you can't get a bigger or better boxing brain than Tyson. I think when it comes to boxing, he's, like I said, he's a boxing genius. So you have to listen to the fighters as well and see how they feel. You can have a certain an idea, but they might not agree with it. So they have to believe in what they're doing, and they have to believe in what you tell them. But me and Joe, I forget the question, but we're quite tight, and as I said, a lot of the time is spent talking and figuring it out together.
Boxing Joe Joyce on September the 24th. A lot of people, myself included, were quite surprised to see that fight being made, particularly after Joe went over to Boxer and Sky Sports. It is, quote unquote, on the other side of the street. Joe Joyce on BT Sport with Frank Warren. How did the fight come about?
Joyce-Parker was adamant that he wanted to fight him, and the fight was going to be promoted by Frank Warren, and it would look like it was all set to go. But it's well noted now, the back and forth with the negotiation, this and that, and not to get into it too much, but even when he signed with Sky, Joyce-Parker was still adamant that he wanted to fight Joyce, and that he wouldn't duck anybody or run from anybody. And so he kept pushing for it, and that's how we're here. So we're here. It's an unusual situation where you sign with somebody, but you fight on a rival's promotion, but it doesn't really matter.
How difficult a fight is Joe Joyce? It seems to me from the outside looking in that when you take away Usyk has just boxed Anthony Joshua, so they're out of the picture. Tyson and Joe very, very close, and of course Tyson kind of got his own things going on. It seems like Joe Joyce might have been the most difficult opponent that Joyce-Parker could have boxed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a big challenge, and yeah, it's a challenge for Joe, but it's also it could be one of the most easiest fights of his career as well. And I think that he knows he's got a challenge ahead of him, so he's raised his game, and you can see it's bringing the best out of him, you know. And I think that was part of the reason why Joseph wanted to fight Joyce, because I think he knows he wants big fights and he needs these challenges. And his whole career, his whole philosophy with him and David Higgins, his manager, from the start, is go for it. You know, never take the layup, never take the easy option. Go for it. So they've continued with that, and yeah, it's a difficult opponent, but I think it could be easy. You know, one of his most, not easiest, because it's never going to be easy, but I'm like, one of the most famous examples would be Calzaghe-Lacey, where before the fight, people think Lacey's a much bigger favourite and it's going to come in and put all this pressure on, and ends up getting schooled. And in terms of experience, you can compare Joseph to Calzaghe and Lacey to Joyce. So look, we're expecting a hard fight when we're ready for it. We're preparing for that, but it also could be an easy fight.
What threats does Joe Joyce pose to Joseph Parker? Obviously, without giving the game away too much, what are you preparing for from Joe Joyce?
We know what he's going to bring. Pressure. He's big, strong, comes forward and has a good engine, and will keep going and keep coming at you for 12 rounds. But he's not the quickest. He's uncoordinated, and his reactions are very slow. Joyce takes a lot of shots, and it almost like when he gets hit, it kind of wakes him up. So I'm not going to say too much. We know what we have to do. For Joseph Parker, it's an exercise in concentration, an exercise in conditioning, and yeah, just being resolute in his resolve that, yeah, there'll be some hairy rounds, I'm sure, and hairy moments where Joyce is coming on strong, but to stick to the task and show his class, because Joseph Parker is, he's a class of a fighter that Joyce has never fought before.
Joe's, been more active than he has at this period of his career. This will be his first fight and likely his only fight in 2022. Boxed 3 times last year. Any concerns around that from your perspective as a trainer?
No, he's never stopped training. You know, he's been in camp with Tyson, so when Tyson fought in April, he sparred all the guys there, and no, we've been sparring already. I started sparring early for this fight, and very excited by what I'm seeing, and yeah, no worries about ring rust.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the mercurial talent that you have under your guidance. Of course, I'm talking about Paddy Donovan. A couple of weeks ago, made his return over in Ireland. I can't profess to have seen the fight, as I mentioned to you off camera, but I saw the result, went the distance with Tom Hill. What was your thoughts on his performance?
There's a story behind every performance, and in any fight. But yeah, Paddy had a long layoff because he had a hand injury. This was his first fight coming back, and he dominated and had Hill hurt several times in the fight, but he was trying to force it a little bit too much, not stepping his feet, not really boxing, and trying to force an opportunity instead of creating an opportunity to knock Hill out. So yeah, it's all part of the learn. I'm not, like I said, with experience and having fought myself, if it's a great performance, I don't get overexcited. If it's a bad performance or below par, not even a bad performance, below par, I don't get too excited either. It's all just part of learning, and yeah, hopefully get him out again soon. He's coming over here to camp to join us now. But Paddy is one of the best young fighters in the world, and it's only time will tell how far he goes in the sport.
Had the pandemic, and then you mentioned the hand injuries that have kind of plagued the last sort of 18 months of his career. He's had a couple of hand injuries. Not ideal for this stage of his career as somebody who, as you all know yourself from boxing, you want to be trying to keep him as active as possible in the early stages.
Yeah, just bad luck. He was fairly active through the pandemic, but he's been carrying a hand injury throughout all those fights and fought them with a hand injury. But he eventually had to get it taken care of. You know, he fought the guy in Glasgow on the Taylor and Catterall undercard, and he was just like, I can't keep punching with this. So he went to Mike Hayton in Manchester, a hand specialist, had a bone graft, took a bone off his hip or something, put it onto his hand. And now he seems to be able to punch. It's just he's got to get I think it's psychological now. It's a weird one because it's probably physically impossible for him to break his hand again, but he still has that. He's still reluctant to throw it with the complete power. So yeah, it's just a matter of time for Paddy. Paddy's got all the talent. We just got to work together more because it's well publicised. I had a baby in July, so I wasn't in the gym and I wasn't training him. So his dad trained him, and I think a little bit of that was reflective in the performance, even though his dad does a very good job.
Okay, moving back. This past weekend or last weekend, I know it's all kind of blurring into one. Oleksandr Usyk retained his unified heavyweight titles with a decision win over Anthony Joshua out in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. What did you make of the fight?
I thought it was an outstanding, one of the best performances by any boxer, I think, to watch Usyk go to work like that. Just beautiful boxing and consistency. And also, it had everything. It had everything. You know, when Joshua had that great round, 9 or 10, whatever it was, to get up off the stool and come back and do what he did the following round, completely shut Joshua down. And one of the best performances, I think, I've seen in a long, long time.
I was actually going to come on to that because I know that you tweeted, I think it was around 3 or 4, you tweeted Usyk is just a beautiful boxer to watch.
Yeah.
Of course, you are working with Tyson, but yeah, you can appreciate that from a boxing man.
I appreciate even guys who are in my own division when I box. Like, if someone's good, then you have to it's good. It's good to say good things about good people. But it was phenomenal. Yeah, and I don't know. It's been a big talking point, hasn't it? It's a big interesting fight. And I'm not sure. I don't even know if I should be volunteering this, but for me, I'm not sure if the second fight, if Joshua did perform better than the first fight. I thought Usyk beat him more convincingly this time. I think it was much more it was clear as day. Yeah, Usyk won the first one as well, but I thought Joshua was a bit more competitive in that fight. I don't know, he had more of I don't know, this time he just seemed to have one plan, which was walk forward, trying to hurt him to the body. And I know there were all these rumours before the fight that Usyk had been stopped by a body shot, but you can't be banking the whole fight on that, stopped and sparring with a body shot. You can't be banking your whole outcome of your fight on that, by walking forward looking for the body. It was a good tactic, but there has to be more to that. There has to be more, I don't know.
It's an interesting one. When I was in Saudi, I actually felt it was more competitive there than I went back and watched it the next day when I'd got back home, and I felt like it was not very competitive. I felt like Oleksandr Usyk, I felt like he won clear watching live, but I had it 8-4 watching live, and then I had it kind of 10-2 when I watched it back. Just sticking with Anthony Joshua there, as you mentioned, much was made about his preparation. He brought Robert Garcia into the camp, but other than kind of coming forward and trying to work the body, did you see any other wrinkles to his game? Did you see any other developments in Anthony Joshua?
I don't know. It's very difficult for him. And as he said, he's not an amateur boxer. Hasn't had any experience. No, he hasn't built up instincts over years. So he's very much he has had some experience. He's an amateur, Olympic champion as an amateur. So it's different, isn't it? I don't know. He's just not. I don't know if he's a natural boxer. He's a natural athlete. I don't know. I don't know the man. I can't comment on him. He's done, as they all say, he's done so much for British boxing and blah blah blah. All this heralding and all this, and but he was just beaten by a better man. And sometimes someone has your number. You know what I mean? He's still a good fighter, Joshua, and to me, he's again, I don't want to be speaking too much out of, I should be volunteering this, but he's like a guy who's got an identity crisis in terms of who is he when he's in the ring. Also, when after the fight, when he makes that speech and then he, he's saying one thing and then contradicting himself, because your character and your personality is always reflected in how you fight. And if you don't know who you are or who you really are, if you're one person in public and one person, if you're not, I don't know. You're always. That's how you're gonna fight as well. So I don't know. Psychoanalysis here. from I've never even spoke. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with Anthony Joshua, but I think he's got so much to offer, and it's for him. I think it's a pity Sugar Hill is with Tyson, because that would have been the ideal match. That would have been like the same way Sugar Hill has done for Tyson. I think he could do the same for Joshua, and yeah, that would it would be a good match, but it's never going to happen now.
Well, that was kind of where I was going to come on to next. I mean, even in the first fight in particular, there was much made about the corner work, what was being told in the corner. Even in the second fight, we saw Robert Garcia telling Joshua he was 3 rounds up after 3 rounds, 3-0 up after 3 rounds. Did he need... I mean, we've seen Manny do it with Vladimir Klitschko in the past, Lennox Lewis in the past. We saw Sugar Hill do it with Tyson Fury. Is that what he needs, do you think? Or would you like to see that?
No, I like this. In a corner, it's as well as, I don't know, you got to tell a fighter the truth, but you got to be a psychologist as well in the corner. You got to keep them confident or encourage them as well. So you got to take it all with a pinch of salt as well. What's being said in the corner. But if you are in the corner of Anthony Joshua, I think you're going to be under a lot of scrutiny, especially the way things have changed and how the corner was such a big issue in the first fight and how much was made of that in the press. So I think, I don't know. I think it could have been it was not a poison chalice, but because I don't know how he could beat Usyk. They all say Usyk's not that small. You know what I mean? He's still a good punching, and it's just an educated fighter, just a fighter who's an outstanding amateur, standing cruiserweight, and now an outstanding heavyweight. So, I just sometimes somebody just has your number, and that's it with that. Like, they might fight 10 times and Usyk would win all 10.
A lot of the talk going into it was if Anthony Joshua loses, he should retire, or he could retire, I think was kind of the word that it was phrased that by Johnny Nelson in particular. Where would you like to see him go from here? Do you think that there are big fights that are still out there for him?
Yeah, of course there is. Yeah, of course there is. That's like, there's huge fights out there for him. Still a big name, still a big seller. People still like him and follow him. So why? It's all part of his education. Who knows where he could be in a year or two? Back on top with the heavyweight shuffle and how good he is, and even though he's had that fight, he'll still take lessons from it. And he'll still improve.
And of course, after that, everybody's now clamouring for a certain Tyson Fury. They're now unretired Tyson Fury making his way back to boxing. Everybody, myself, being very, very surprised to hear that news. Great news for the sport. Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk is the fight to make it heavyweight now, surely.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing else to say. It's the fight everyone wants to see. Yeah.
What did you see from Oleksandr Usyk at the weekend that, you'd have had your analytical eye on it. Of course, you're a boxing fan anyway. You would have been watching it. But what did he do well? What kind of things do you feel like Tyson Fury would be able to do to negate? We've all seen Oleksandr Usyk's skills. He is a smaller man, as you've said there. He can still punch. He's still very much a heavyweight, but he's not Tyson Fury. He's not 6'9", 270 pounds, move like a middleweight, all of that stuff. How does that fight play out, Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk?
All those things you said, like, Tyson is too big for him. There's weight divisions for a reason, and these guys are not in the same weight division, really. But also when you look at Tyson's ability and skills, and also how he punches now, like, for Tyson, it's all just like it's made for him, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, not that he's a superstar now, but it's kind of vaulted onto, like, Usyk has really, like, put up he's top pound for pound fighter in the world, Usyk. But when you watch it from a boxing point of view, Tyson will play with him, I think. Tyson could do a million things with him. Tyson could either rough him up, tire him out, and then take him out, or Tyson could box him. And I think that I'd like to see Tyson just outbox him and outbox the boxer.
Is that a more difficult fight for Tyson Fury than, for example, Deontay Wilder?
No. Deontay Wilder has that power, an unpredictable power. And there's an argument for, like, how would Deontay Wilder do against Usyk? You know what I mean? I don't know if Usyk could take that punch. I don't know if anyone could take that that punch. So there's still an argument for Deontay Wilder being the number 2 heavyweight in the world. He's only lost to Tyson.
He's also coming back, boxing Robert Helenius on October the 15th in New York. How do you see that fight playing out? Have you been around Robert Helenius at all? Have you ever had Robert Helenius in the gym?
No, but we were around the same age, so we boxed as amateurs together. He was on the Finland team, and yeah, I don't know. It could be a great knockout for Deontay Wilder. They've sparred a lot, so they'll know each other. But I'm excited to see what he does, and I think Malik Scott's probably one of the best coaches out there. Not that I've no evidence of it, but I like what I see when I hear him talk and I see him work. I like what I see. Yeah.
Another fight that's been discussed has been Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. I think we're kind of back in 2018 out of nowhere. 2 big hitters at heavyweight. Of course, neither hold a heavyweight title anymore, but a fight that I think we'd all love to see. 2 big hitters going at it.
Yeah, it's still a massive fight, and yeah, it would be, and it'd be a chance for Joshua kind of to redeem himself, I guess. And if they fought, and the winner of them would be back in line to fight whoever's number 1 at that stage.
Do you think we'll still see Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua before they both actually hang up their gloves?
Just depends how it shakes out, doesn't it? It depends. Tyson will beat Usyk, and then if Joshua gets a couple of wins, why not? Why not? Yeah, it's still the biggest fight in British boxing. It's probably lost a bit of, like, for boxing people, it's probably lost a bit of its shine, but yeah, big fight.
Were you surprised that Tyson came back out of his retirement? I know you kind of leave Tyson to do his thing and what have you, but were you as expectant as I think we all were that he would eventually come back?
Like during the White fight week, Dillian White, he was retiring, and for 3 or 4 weeks we spoke nearly every couple of days, and he was happy to be retired. But I don't know, he's just training, and I think seeing these guys fight it's hard for him to sit still and watch these guys who fight, and he knows he can just. Not that he wipe the floor with them, but he'll beat them. And, yeah. So I think it's hard for him to sit at home while these guys are fighting, and he knows he's still capable of beating them all.
Is that his driver? Is that his what he wants to kind of rubber stamp his legacy? You've been around Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko, great heavyweights of their era. Is that what pushes Tyson forward now? Or is it the money? Is it a $500 million payday in Saudi Arabia? What do you think motivates him?
Money, and just he's a fighting man. I think if you really boil it down, I think he's a fighting man, and yeah, I just think he wants to be. I don't think I can't explain to you the type of person he is, because I've known people like him. If he's in a room with somebody who's big, thinks he can fight, then he has to let that man know that I can beat you and I can fight. You know. It doesn't, not necessarily has to be Tyson, but there's other people I know like this, who, if they're a fighter, they have to fight. They have to be the best fighter. We can't both exist and not know who's the best. And Tyson's kind of like that now, but it's not like they're in the same room. He just knows that these guys are boxing, and even if there's a question, Tyson will want to put that question to that, put it to bed.
Okay, right, we're going to try and whiz through a few little bits and pieces before we wrap things up. I'm going to speak about some DAZN business. Of course, you are Andy Lee, one of the premier broadcasters on DAZN Boxing. Let's talk about Canelo versus Golovkin 3. A few weeks' time, that's coming around quickly. September the 17th in Las Vegas. How do you see that one playing out?
Canelo. Listen, it makes it a bit interesting because Bivol beat Canelo, convincingly. And yeah, but on the back of the first 2 fights with Golovkin, and Golovkin's a win over Murata, you could say Golovkin improved, maybe got rid of some ring rust and improved as the fight went on. But all signs, Canelo, to keep it short and sweet, Canelo probably dominant points win.
Now, once upon a time, you boxed Gennady Golovkin in the amateurs, didn't you?
A long time ago, yeah.
Long time ago. What are your thoughts? What are your memories of that?
Oh, when I knew he was something special. Yeah, it was 2003 World Amateur Championships in Bangkok, Thailand. Second fight of the tournament, and I didn't even know there was a country called Kazakhstan. And then this guy was in there, and I did all I could just to stay in him. I lost on points. But I knew he was something special. I watched him throughout the tournament, and then at the Olympics he won everything. And yeah, when he turned pro with K2 in Germany, I always kept an eye on him before he came to America because I knew this guy was going to be something. And he has been, yeah. He's a Hall of Fame fighter.
What was it about him? What was it about you said you thought
Power,
he was special?
He's power, and he's educated pressure. You know, I hadn't fought anyone with that style. He would walk you down, stay in range. As a counterpuncher, I would let them come into range and let them punch first, then I would have countered them. But he used to wouldn't make you get close enough to you so you're uncomfortable. Then you punch, he'd slip and bop, 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 bop. And not just bop, bop, like boom, 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 boom. And, you know, heavy shots. Yeah, I knew his footwork, control of distance, power. He was special.
And we spoke about the fact that you signed to fight him as well as a pro once upon a time.
Yeah. It's all history, but yeah, could have happened. I wish it would have happened. It would have been, you know, it was one guy I wanted to fight just because you want to fight the best, but never did. So just as well. I can still talk.
Final one on All Things The Zone, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. An interesting one. I think that came out slightly out of left field for us boxing fans. Obviously, there's a weight disparity. That's kind of the main talking point, but still a big fight for British boxing and one that I'm kind of unashamedly looking forward to.
There's no shame in it. It's a very, very good fight. And obviously the history of the two names. The question is the weight, what weight the fight's going to be at. Is that confirmed?
157.
And what's the rematch, the re-weighing clause, what's that?
The rehydration clause is still being kept very much under wraps. It depends on who you listen to and what you've seen.
What are they saying, £10 the next day? Or
Eddie Hearn said it's less than the IBF.
IBF is
which
£10.
I think is £12 now because they've just adjusted it per weight class, so it's no longer £10 per weight.
So it's probably going to be £10 to £8. Yeah, it just depends. Like making 150, like I made 154, so I don't know if Eubank's fought as high as super middleweight, so I'm not sure if making 156. Depends how much the weight takes out of Eubanks. If they were pound for pound, Ben is an exciting fighter, and much improved. But Eubank is spiteful, and Eubank has an engine on him, and Eubank will keep punching. You know, he's the son of a famous fighter, but was never been treated to any of the benefits of that. He's been brought up hard and had it hard, you know, and he fights with that anger. He's got a good jab, Eubank, even though he kind of falls off to one side when he jabs. It's interesting fight, yeah. A very interesting fight. It just depends on the weight. The weight is the big issue. It's the unknown what. I think I like Conor Benn. I think he's a great fighter, great exciting fighter, and he's great for boxing in this country. But they might have bitten off more than they can chew with this fight because Eubanks is, as I said, spiteful and a much bigger man.
You were a puncher when you boxed. Conor is a puncher at 147. How important is it? I mean, we know that Eubank Jr.'s got a very good chin, but how important is it that Conor can try and at least make him feel that power moving up?
I think the power will translate. Power, if you're a puncher welterweight, you're a puncher, you know, they'll still be feeling it. Eubank will still be feeling it, you know. I sparred welterweights, and like I was saying the other day, the hardest I've ever been hit in sparring was Kerm Cintron. Like, he hit me, we were sparring, and I woke up, I was in the sauna. You know, the next thing I know, I was in the sauna. We sparred 6 rounds, but, you know, I don't remember any of it. And did the spar, did well, got out, had the crack, was in the sauna. Then the next thing I know, I'm there. So I think the power will translate, but boxing is more about power. If it was only about power, then the strongest fighter would win every fight. So there's so much more to it. Size is a big thing, and distance. Yeah, Ben's probably got better fundamentals, you know, but Eubank has ability. It's a very interesting fight. Very, very interesting fight, yeah.
We look forward to seeing it. Right, before I let you go, I gave you some pre-warning for this before we came up today. Usually I'll stick you on the spot, and hopefully you've been thinking about at least one
I've done no preparation.
Emmanuel Stewart story for us, Andy.
In regards to what, like?
Well, we've just spoken about in the gym. So one of the angles I was going to go down was sort of best spars in the Kronk gym, and if there's any kind of stories that you had around that from Emmanuel, around certain spars or certain people you'd worked with, or any of your fights, any nuggets of information that you can give us.
No, like the legendary Kronk spars, you know. There was always wars in the gym. But if Manuel saw somebody getting really, like Manuel would stop off spar straight away, no matter who it was. Okay, get out. That's enough, you know. I had sparred Adonis Stevenson. He wasn't long in the gym, and we sparred. Can't remember how many rounds, but I completely outclassed him. It was because he tried to box me, and we sparred a couple of days later, and he just came put it on me. And as soon as the round 2 had begun, the man said, "Stop! That's enough. Get out." Not that I was like hurt or anything, but man could see what was going to happen. You know what I mean? So man just said, "That's enough. Get out." And you're okay. I said, "All right, man, I'm happy to spend it. No, get out now. That's enough." Because he could see what Adonis Stevens massive, like equally as big a puncher as Cameron Cintron. But yeah, there are fighters who like the Kronk spars. There were fighters who were just like, you watch him in that Kronk gym in the spar, and like there's one in particular I can remember, like, and like he would be beating everyone, but put him in a fight and he never couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, and man used to say, like Tommy Hearns, you put him in spar and it wouldn't look like much. You know what I mean? Everyone would more or less beat him, you know. But come fight night, he puts on the small gloves and the shorts, cocoa butter, and he's a different animal, you know. So there are gym fighters and there are fighters, really. And you want to be the latter. You know what I mean? You don't want to have the best name for being the best at the gym.
Absolutely. Okay, Andy, we are probably about there. We're going to go and watch you and Joyce-Parker train now, which we're very much looking forward to. Thanks, as always, for speaking to myself and having ID Boxing invade you here in Morecambe. Always a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you.